Hey, how's it going and welcome to another video. Of course, the moment I begin recording, the oven is finished warming up. Time to go put my tendies in the oven. Okay, don't worry everyone, the tendies are in the oven. Right, where was I? 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. So if you didn't catch the last video I made on this, my review of it, this is my Game of the Year 2020. I fucking thoroughly fell in love with it. It's just such a unique game. It's one of those things that I'm just happy that it exists at all. And I think it's gonna go down as being one of the last, truly great kind of hidden gems on the PS4. By the time you see this, the PS5 may have already come out, so it's like we're in that transitional period right now. Where mentally, the PS4 is kind of old news, but it's obviously still gonna be getting games for quite a while. But, you know, most things that come out for PS4 are also going to come out for PS5, but yeah, I fucking thoroughly love 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, and another thing I wanted to say is thank you so much to everybody who decided to check this out because of my video. I saw so many of you saying, like, oh man, this looks so cool, I didn't even know this came out, I'm excited for this looks neat. And the idea that I inspired anybody to go and cop this game is kind of heartwarming. I don't think I expressed this enough, but to me, victory, and I guess almost in a way the purpose of the channel is just to spread, my love for things that I enjoy. It might not seem like much, but whenever I put up a video about, you know, a game that I've played or a character that I like or whatever it happens to be, and somebody else goes, oh, that looks cool, I'll check it out. That makes me feel very accomplished, more so than pretty much anything else. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody who decided to check out the game because of the video I made. And if you want to get it, I happen to notice that for GameStop's Black Friday, they have 13 Sentinels for $30. So if you want to support poor old GameStop in its hour of desperation, this might be a pretty good chance. I mean, shit, $30 for 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, you can't go wrong with that. But yeah, this is going to be a spoiler video from here on out. If you haven't played it yet, please do so. It's really, really good. But yeah, from here on out, we are in the spoiler zone. And actually, I think I'm going to get rid of this D tier right here because I like all of these characters. I don't look at any of these guys and I don't stop and think, if only they weren't in the game. I think they're all at least enjoyable in their own way. They all at least contribute something. And I think at the very worst, I feel neutral on some of them, but yeah, let's get into it, starting with Sekigahara. So, I think Sekigahara is a pretty cool guy. I think his story about being this runaway fugitive who's, supposedly did this really horrible shit is interesting. Because it creates the question of, oh man, did he actually do it? Is he really this bad motherfucker that everybody says he is? And he's kind of just a cool guy in general. I don't know, I really like his bike. I think that's pretty cool. But I do like Sekigahara. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite characters. He's a pretty cool guy. He's just not somebody that I super really vibe with. So for that reason, I will give him a B. Natsuno. Okay, Natsuno might be my favorite female character. I like her a lot. I think her personality is really fun and lovable. She's just energetic enough to be, you know, fun and kind of upbeat, but it never really reaches the point for me where she's, you know, kind of an irritating source of energy. You know, she thinks it's all fun and games and exciting, and it's like, oh, whoa, this is like War of the Worlds, until it's literally War of the Worlds, and then she's like, oh, wait, this isn't as fun anymore. And I think it's just fun to see such a weird, strange story, experience that through her eyes, as somebody who's this big dork who's really into, you know, aliens and UFOs and the Men in Black and stuff like that. Those are all things that I'm pretty interested in myself, so I find that I can relate to Natsuno pretty easily. Plus her relationship with the robot BJ is really cute and charming, and she has nice legs. Yeah, Natsuno, really cool. She might be my favorite female character. It's definitely a tie between her and another one, but I will give her an S for sure. I will give her an S for sure. Goto. So, Goto is interesting. I feel like he's the only character that in some way kind of suffers from just the structure that 13 Sentinels has, to where you can't just go through the character stories in one, you know, straight shot. You have to kind of make progress through other people's stories or in the battles and shit. And normally that works out really well because it feels more like you're experiencing all their stories in little chunks. So you can't just go and say you want, say you want to solve the mysteries of everything going on with, Juro, right? You can't. But Goto is so backloaded towards the end. I think to, do his first thing, you have to unlock 80% of everybody else's story, which is a lot. And even though he is present throughout a lot of the other characters' stories, I do in a way feel like he's sort of this odd man out. He's almost like he isn't the secret chapter, but he almost functions as a sort of epilogue in a way that doesn't feel quite consistent with the whole rest of the cast. Since his story, pretty much the point of his story is to tie up a lot of loose ends, explain what's going on with little Chihiro. And so to me, I feel like his story is kind of designed to just be like, here's one more info dump for you. And even though I have a pretty good grasp of what he's about, just, as a character, he's stoic, like, investigative, he's kind of a no-nonsense sort of guy, I still just don't feel very attached to him because, unlike a lot of these characters, I don't feel like I went on an adventure with Goto, To me, I kind of feel like Goto just sort of talked at me, and even though he's a pretty cool guy, I feel like for those reasons, I'm gonna have to put him in C. Fuyusaka is cute. I do like her, but I don't find her particularly super interesting. I definitely think that Miss Morimura is a lot more interesting than, Fuyusaka is. Also, I wanted to mention how ridiculously fucking hot Miss Morimura is. That woman has too much ass, for real. Perhaps it's a good thing that Vanillaware only makes a game once every, several years? Because the TNA they put on some of these characters is, like, catastrophic. They could turn the world into Coomers if they truly wanted to, so... Right, what was I talking about? Yeah, Fuyusaka. Yeah, she's okay. I think her crush on Sekigahara is pretty cute, but... Other than that, I've always just found, like, Miss Morimura, and for that matter, Izumi from the previous loop, to be just more interesting people. But Fuyusaka is still neat, so I'll give her a B. Miura. Oh, baby. Okay, I loved Miura. I will give him an S. Miura is pretty close to being my favorite character. There's so much about Miura that I really like. First of all, I think the fact that he in a way is kind of the 1940s time block representative of the game, I think is really cool. Hijiyama is the other one, but I'm a lot more into Miura. I just think that kind of, Imperial Japan aesthetic is really cool. Not that I'm advocating for the horrible, terrible, very bad war crimes that happened in World War II, but I don't know, I just find the kind of mid-20th century to be the most interesting part of human history, and World War II especially, so to see a character that kind of represents that era of history I think is really cool. And just him having to adjust to being in the 80s I think is really neat. Like, my two favorite kinds of time travel are, first of all, time loops, where a character is stuck in a repeating sequence of days over and over and over again. And then I think my second favorite is the kind of fish out of water character thrown into the future kinds of stories. Shit like Futurama, and that's basically what happens to Miura. And I think that's super interesting, the idea of this, nationalistic World War II Japanese, soldier thrown into the 80s and having to deal with the reality of, first of all, the fact that Japan lost, and the secondary reality of, but things aren't really so bad. So I think that's kind of an interesting conflict of just like, okay, even if I do go back and we do win the war, would that be better? I just think that's really interesting. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is I think my favorite scene in the game involves Miura, or the original Miura, I should say. It's the scene, I'm pretty sure that if you go into the, the glossary thing, this is like the first scene chronologically that shows up. It's definitely one of the first at least, but it's the original Miura and the original Natsuno talking about how, it's Miura who's talking about how he would have liked to live in the 1940s because he finds that period of history really interesting. And I think that was one of the scenes that made me really super invested in the story. I had already been invested up to that point, but that scene was just so strange and so, like, because at that point, I'm pretty sure you didn't know that the time travel is actually more like dimensional travel, to where you're just phasing through different simulated realities of those particular time zones. And so to see Miura, who's supposed to be from the 40s, in a spacesuit working on some kind of space colony, talking to Minami about similar shit, it was kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, this is abnormal. So yeah, Miura's really cool. I found his story to be super compelling. I really like him just as a character in the situation he ends up in. S tier for sure, one of my favorites from the whole game. So I went to get my tendies out of the oven, and my uncle was there in the kitchen drinking chocolate milk in his underwear. Yeah, so anyways, Juro Karabe, I think he's okay. Very similar to Fuyusaka, I think that, 426, Izumi, whatever, it just seems like a much more interesting character. Like, I think the thing going on where his, shit, I can't remember his name. What was the name of the friend? His homie that he would hang out with, that guy is actually 426, and he's feeding him memories in the form of, like, videotapes of movies. And so I just think that's a really interesting kind of storytelling device where, like, the friend will hunt you down whenever he feels like you're starting to get out of line. But other than that, he's okay. He doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I think I'll give him a C. I'm not really crazy about him. Hijiyama is cool, though. Did you guys know that 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim ended homophobia? It's true, it happened. Now, I'm not like a gay, but I don't know, dude. Hijiyama and Okino were pretty freaking cute together. But Hijiyama's a fun character. Like I said, I like him a little bit less than Miura, but I still think he's really cool. Just that kind of, you know, fish out of water story, this guy who's stuck in a time period that's not his own. But yeah, for me, it really is, like, his relationship with Okino is what kind of makes the character for me. He's pretty fun. I like how he has his obsession with yakisoba pan. I know he's always trying to scrounge around for change. But yeah, I like Hijiyama. I'll give him an A. Yakushiji is a character that I'm very meh on. I tend to not really be into female characters that are like really into one guy. Especially when that guy happens to be the protagonist of a particular thing. I don't know, that kind of just turns me off. She's definitely not like a yandere, but she's a little into, Juro. Just a little bit too much for my own liking. Now, I will say, to counterbalance that, she actually has one of my favorite stories of any of the characters. Her story is so funny and so fucking weird how she's taking orders from Fluffy, who's actually 426. And Fluffy comes up with the weirdest, like, explanation for what's going on of, this is a magical gun, and I need you to shoot witches, and, like, shut up. Just do it. And Fluffy's just so much fun. He's such an asshole. I like the fact that he's kind of playful about the fact that he's in a cat's body, but he's still really demanding and bossy. And just the mystery of, like, who is Fluffy, I found really interesting. So, the character herself, not really crazy about her, but I really enjoyed her story, so I think I'll give her a B, just because, you know, the story I found so fucking entertaining. Amiguchi is a cool dude. He's a different flavor of cool from Sekigahara. Sekigahara is a lot more stoic badass, whereas Amiguchi is more, I guess, kind of, you know, pretty boy kind of cool. This is a weird comparison, but he reminds me of Sylvain from Fire Emblem Three Houses. They're both these, like, playboy kind of characters who are actually pretty smart, kind of serious people underneath. So I think that's fun. I also really like his relationship with Yuki. I think those two are a really cute couple. I don't know, I just think that's a really cute pairing. The idea of, like, playboy kind of flippant Amiguchi and then the serious badass Yuki. So I think they're a cool pair, but Amiguchi's cool. I like the fact that he's, you know, he's actually Ida from a previous loop, or I guess that would be the other way around, wouldn't it? And, you know, his relationship with Tomi from a loop before, and also his connection to Miyuki Inaba, who's the original Tomi. I find all that really cool. So Amiguchi's a cool guy. I like him. I'll give him an A. Alright, Yuki. So, Yuki is, I would say she's pretty closely tied for being my favorite female character. I'll just go ahead and put her an S. Man, Yuki's really cool. I really enjoyed her. She's badass. She doesn't take shit from anybody. I find that to be just kind of a really appealing kind of character trait for female characters. The ones that are tough, but aren't really, like, overbearing about it, you know? Because to me, there's a huge difference between characters that are just kind of cunty and bitchy and irritating and ones that are just like, you know, they have their act together. They're not taking crap. And Yuki is definitely a lot more strong than she is, like, bitchy. And like I said, her and Amiguchi, really cute. So yeah, Yuki is rad. Tomi. I like Tomi. I wouldn't say she's one of my favorite girl characters, but I do like her a little bit more than, like, Fuyusaka or, Yakushiji. She's cool. I don't know. I find her at least a little bit more kind of interesting and spicy, I guess, than Fuyusaka is. I'll go ahead and put her an A. But she's cool. You know, she's slightly kind of pushy, but still endearing. Her relationship with Ogata is really cute. I like their kind of romance a lot. Tomi, pretty cool, doesn't afraid of anything. Alright, my favorite character in this game is Ogata. Now, I mentioned in the original video, I am inherently biased because he reminds me a lot of Josuke from JoJo Part 4, who is one of my favorite characters from anything ever. They're very similar people. Like, you can probably already tell just from their appearance. You know, they both have that same kind of hairstyle. I would say some of the big differences are Ogata is a little bit more kind of outwardly unfriendly compared to Josuke, but they both have a similar kind of side of like, hey man, don't mess with me. They're kind of tough on the outside, but really nice and sweet on the inside. And Ogata is definitely a little bit more kind of feminine than Josuke is. You know, he has the thing where he hangs out on the roof drying his handkerchief, and everybody's like, ooh, I bet that's a girl's handkerchief. So that's cool how he has kind of a sweet side going on, but he also has one of my favorite stories, which just so happens to be a time loop, just like what fucking happens in JoJo Part 4. Weird coincidence, I guess, but yeah, he has one of my favorite stories, how he gets stuck in this loop until he has to keep redoing the same couple of minutes over and over and over until he finds a solution. And he's just a really fun guy to have around. Obviously, very biased because he's basically Josuke, and I love Josuke dearly, so that's pretty much why he's my favorite character. And finally, Shimanome. I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel about her. I do like her. I do think she's cute. I do feel the urge to protect her, but her story doesn't really do a whole lot for me. And she has a similar kind of thing going on with, like, as Yakushiji does, where she's really into Ida, almost to the point where it's kind of like, you're a little bit too into him, I think. But I don't know. She's really cute. I can't help but feel kind of bad for her. She needs to eat some yakisoba pan or something, dude, and stop going around trying to do Ida's bidding, bro. Yeah, for that reason, I'll give her a B. I do like her. So yeah, that is the list. I feel like depending on the day, like, Yakushiji could probably move down a spot. Like, maybe I'd move Juro to B, but I feel like this is pretty good. And like I said, I do like all of these characters. At worst, I feel a sort of meh towards them, but none of these characters are bad by any means. I do like all of them in at least some way, shape, or form. So yeah, that has been the list. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it through this and you haven't played 13 Sentinels, you are a very bad boy. But who knows, maybe that inspired you to go check it out for yourself. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.